Greetings, I'm Karen Colligan, and welcome to the Let's Talk Leadership podcast. I'm the founder of a leadership organization called PeopleThink, where I created the Keep It Real leadership program that equips and elevates emerging and advancing leaders. It's all online and can be done anywhere, and it can be done at any time. What I know for sure is all leaders lead differently, and that's the beauty of leadership. It is so important to understand what your unique leadership style is. Now, that word is worth repeating, unique, because everyone has their own leadership style, which will inform how you're going to help your team and help your organization move forward. You got to be real, and you got to be bold, and you got to drive to take action. Because let's face it, people look to their leaders for vision. They look to their leaders for coaching and growth opportunities. And this is why, as a leader, you want to be crystal clear about your unique leadership style and competencies and be the leader only you can be. The whole purpose of the Let's Talk Leadership podcast is to speak to a variety of leaders who are in different industries with different titles at different levels to better understand their unique way of leading. We're going to ask each leader the same 6 questions so we can provide you with a diverse way of looking at leadership. We want you to find those treasures that will help you be the best leader only you can be. So let's get moving and talk to our next leadership guest. In this episode, I am thrilled to be speaking to Patti Clarke, who is the Global Chief Talent Officer for the Havas Group. We're going to hear all about Patti's approach to leadership. So Patti, welcome and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Karen. It's great to see you, and I'm really pleased to be here with this conversation.
Thank you. Oh, good. I'm so excited. Can't wait to chat. So here we go, Patti. You and I met years ago, and we met through Lumina Learning, a global provider of people development solutions, when Lumina worked with you and your team to create the Fem Forward Leadership Program at Havas. So I really understand your commitment to leadership and the importance of building a strong leadership bench for Havas. I mean, that's what leadership is really all about. Who's ready to take on our positions as we continue to grow and move forward? So Patti, tell us a little bit about who you are and what the Havas Group is all about before we get into the leadership conversation.
Sure. So Havas is a global advertising, marketing, communications, media organization. It is based out of France, and we have 20,000 employees globally across our 3 primary networks, which are a creative network, a media network, and a health network. And my role at Havas, I'm the first ever Chief Talent Officer of the group. And I really spend my time thinking about how we can make Havas a meaningful work experience for our employees. And my focus really is on how we do that through a variety of programming, through our culture, how we develop our leaders. So it really crosses a wide variety over what's our overall talent strategy, really, and what are the levers we're going to use to deliver that and ensure that we have the talent we need to do great work for our clients.
Wow, that's fabulous. And what's great, Patti, is you said you're the first global. And so when you think about what we're going to be talking about, leadership, we're talking about people development, it's really about what is for the enterprise and how it does go across the cultures, the geography, and the demographics of who's in Havas. So yeah, really looking forward to this. All righty. So first things first. So there's so many ways to really define leadership. And what I continue to find as I mature in my career is that the definitions are so vast. And so it's always my first question, Patti. So the question is, how do you, Patti Clarke, define leadership?
Sure. Well, I think you hit on something, Karen, with the kind of over the course of your career and the maturity of your career. I do think leadership continues to change and evolve. I think back to when I first started working, and the environment I was in was more one of kind of command and control, kind of like a authoritarian environment. I think over time it has evolved, and I think the beauty of it is it can be, to kind of your opening comments, unique to you, and you can be effective if you focus on some very common things. And for me, I like to think about leadership as being made up of like two parts, or there's two sides of the coin. There's the what you do and how you do it. And I think the what you do can be anything from, what's the strategy you're putting in place, or what needs to be done, or what decisions need to be made. It's really important for leaders to really have those in their sights and be clear about which of those are critical to their business objectives. But the how, I think, is something that's emerged more over the last decade or so. And that's really, who are the people, the talent that you need to deliver? How are you listening to them? How are you bringing their ideas into the decision making? How are you engaging them? Really kind of bringing the whole person into the mix. And I think, the what and how model is something you can apply distinctly to yourself. But they're the two sides that I'm always thinking about. What do I need to get done, and how am I going to lead to do that effectively with the people on my team or who I'm collaborating with in the organization?
Yeah. And as you were talking, it made me think about when you think about listening to the employees. So no matter what anyone's title is, whether it has a leadership title in it or not, I really look at individuals within organizations that everyone truly is a leader. And when you have someone like you saying, well, listen, we're going to not only sit down and talk to the talent we've got, we're going to listen to what they have and what ideas are they bringing to the table, really makes me know that what's important at Havas is that everybody shows up, whether they're an individual performer or have a leadership title, as a leader in their own right. Does that make sense?
Agree completely, Karen. I've long subscribed to the definition that every single person is a leader. Whatever your space, your specialty is, what your role is, we expect and want you to come in and lead in that space. Leadership is not just about titles or number of people reporting to you or budgets. It's being the best contributor you can be in the role that you're in. And to your point earlier, that means sharing your ideas for how something in your space might be able to be done better, or even in the larger business that you see an opportunity around. And I think if you can instill that in your organization, you get the benefit of the engagement of the people and everyone participating in the business versus, in some places people end up being passengers. They're kind of there doing a task and finishing that task and going home, and it's not doesn't have the same level of ownership and accountability as everyone is a leader.
I love partnership versus passengers along for the ride. And a big distinction just hearing those two words, because you see immediately what they both mean. So that's fabulous. Yes. Every single person is a leader indeed. All righty. So I'm curious about your values as a leader, because what you just talked about was the what and the how. And the how is really about, what is our guiding light? What is going to be our decision-making function that's going to know that I can put a stake in the ground and I can be bold? So Patti, when you think of values and again, the guiding light piece, can you give us 3 of your top values that you really monitor your work life with?
Sure. I think the first thing I would say is integrity. I always say to young employees and even, the young people in my personal life, that your integrity is the one thing you can really own completely. No one can take it away from you. It is something that you have to cherish. and you have to respect. And so I think I've always tried to lead with integrity in terms of how I deal with people and situations, et cetera. I also think being authentic, you know, I was really open with people when I was a single mother in a big job with two small children. And I didn't hide that. I really felt, you know, this is something people need to understand about me. And I'm very open about kind of sharing who I am and what my life is. And I think that brings an authenticity because it comes with the highs and lows. You know, when something unfortunate happens in your family, you know, you don't just show up at work kind of feeling like it's just another day. You express, you know, sorrow or upsetment, just like when the highs happen and the joys that come with that. And I think it's really important. It's very, very difficult to show up every day and check part of yourself at the door.
Right.
It's a very heavy bag to carry through the day in, day out at your job. And so being yourself and showing up with that is why you're unique. And people, I think over time start to really appreciate that authenticity. The final thing I would say, Karen, is I think I've always had kind of a natural care or empathy for people. So, you know, I do listen and I want to understand what's going on and, you know, really want to be supportive because, you know, life's not a straight line. Stuff happens. People have things they have to deal with. And, you know, I like to be there and understand that and help coach and guide, you know, how you can deal with that, but also still continue to be effective at work. And or sometimes it's a decision of just saying, you know what, just write this week off, you know, let the calendar turn and pick up next week. Give yourself some space and time to deal with whatever you're dealing with. It's more important than these couple of tasks you're so worried about at work. Focus on yourself. So it just depends on the situation, but I do think there's an empathetic side to me. I do think as we look at leadership now and going forward, I do think there's one piece that's going to be required of everyone, and that's inclusivity. So really inclusive leader. I consider myself an inclusive leader, but I'm also on a learning journey around that right now in terms of how I can be even more inclusive.
And, you know, to that point, Patti, I think all of us are on that journey and really wanting to make sure that we're paying attention to that along the way. And I think as you talk about that, that's going to go right back to what your three values are. So integrity, authenticity, and care/empathy. I mean, they're all tied with inclusivity. So it's almost like those four, I'll just call them the four, they can't almost be broken apart. And if you were not authentic, then people wouldn't trust you. If you didn't care, then people wouldn't think you were authentic. Or if you pretended that careness. I mean, you and I have both been around enough people who are like, oh, I'm so sorry. And you're thinking, no, you're not. No. So don't say it. Don't, please. I need people to really be honest about what they're thinking. And so you are three, and then that fourth one really are all tied together. It's kind of like it's like a pretzel. You kind of can't take them apart. That's for sure. And so, you know, we're going through in this cray world I like to talk about is, you know, an enormous amount of transition and change. I mean, we could go on and on, you know, just between the global pandemic, the social awakening, the economic implications of both. You know, again, we could just keep going on and on if we think about the industries we're in and the businesses that we work with. So how do you, Patti, lead through transition and change? I mean, before we got on here, we were talking about, you know, you're in the office today. There's not as many people there. You're working from home. How do we be creative, innovative, collaborative? So with all this going on, where do you get your strength and what do you do to lead through transition and change?
Yeah, so obviously, you know, we've had a lot to do for and with our employees regarding the COVID pandemic. And so that's brought, you know, a tremendous amount of change onto the organization to kind of go home on a Friday in March and, you know, be entering the middle of October and still not have come back to the office. And, you know, I think that, and then the racial situation in North America as well, which has had some just horrific events take place. It's really been a very difficult time for employees, and so I think and not being able to kind of be together then makes that even harder. We have spent time kind of helping our leaders lead through this, and I'll throw myself into that mix as well, because as part of helping them lead, you learn as well.
Yes.
And we're really lucky to have a number of partners, and we've done some work with Lisa Stromberg at Prism Work, and she has a great term and philosophy around like 21st century leadership, and the inclusivity piece comes into that. And there's really 4 pillars to that, which are curiosity, connected, courageous, and committed. And I think these are all things that we've had to embrace, whether dealing with COVID or with what we plan to do in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think what's really helped me is first the curiosity piece. So I think early on, we do a lot of talent experiences where we bring people together from across the globe in one destination, and knowing that wasn't going to be happening,
Right.
We really had to think differently. I had to think differently again, if you go back to kind of the leader setting the strategy and what are the things we're going to be doing, and really think about innovating. And I think I really enjoyed that challenge, because it enabled us to really kind of get out of this regular process we were in and start to think about different ways. Our CEO, Yannick Bolloré, asked me really early on in COVID, what we could do to help employees stay connected. Like, how could we keep them motivated when they're, all at home and they've finally figured out the work from home thing, but now, they don't have the benefit of the collaboration and the connection that happens in the office. And we developed really an online kind of news platform that came twice a week called Havas from Home.
Nice.
And we really anchored it on 3 pillars. One was connect, one was learn, and one was be well. And connecting was about, let's share stories about what's going on around the various agencies and networks, things that are happening with people as they learn to work from home and learn to be teachers as well to their children.
Exactly.
The learning piece was, we really felt like there's so much that happens kind of organically in the office around learning, as well as real programming. So we really wanted to make sure people still had that kind of stimuli, and that they had access to everything from webinars that some of our leaders participated in to really soft skill training that we developed online. And then, the final piece was be well, which was something we felt really strongly about, because obviously, kind of mental health and wellness has been a challenge for everybody with the environmental changes to your routine, to your diet, to exercise, you name it. So this platform really has become something that employees have come to rely on. And it's become a collaborative initiative where they're sending us as many stories as we create. So it's amazing to have things come in from all over the globe around those 3 pillars, and to see it evolve. It's evolved into, we're now a weekly publication called Life at Havas.
Wow.
And rich set of materials around what's happening around the networks. I'd also just say the other thing, I think the courageous piece, when you talk about the work we're doing around diversity, equity, and inclusion, I think, you have to lean in, and it's not always comfortable. You have to have the courage to go down paths that you may not have gone down before, and to go openly, and to know you're going to learn, and also to know you may not get it right every time, but that's a learning in its own right as well. And through the process of, our industry was really committed to sharing the diversity numbers, and Havas was committed to doing that as well. However, I felt really strongly we needed to share a plan as well. So I worked with our North America leaders, and we developed a 7-point plan that's called Commit to Change. And it really clearly articulated kind of where we were going to be committed in the beginning of this journey, which will, be a journey that takes on many chapters. And as part of that, I had conversations with many of our Black and employees of color. And, I wanted to understand what's their experience like. What are the things that aren't great about their experience at Havas? Because it was going to be tremendous insight to be able to develop this plan. And so, I think that kind of goes across kind of courageous and connected, because being connected, I learned a lot. And that was able to help form where we needed to put the focus around our plans. So I do think, there's the kind of curiosity and being connected, courageous and committed, all kind of fit for both the pandemic situation as well as the work we're doing around DEI. And I would say just personally on the DEI end of things, I continue kind of my own learning journey, reading. I really got a lot out of the book White Fragility. And so you want to talk about race. And so I'm continuing kind of my own personal journey there, as well as what I'm doing at work, because I know I need to grow in that space as well.
Yeah. And the fact that you commit to change and it's a 7-point plan, you're right. The numbers will say one thing, and it's okay and great that Havas would be willing to share those numbers. And then there has to be an add-on to that, because you can't just share the numbers and have expectations that things will shift, things will change unless there's a plan in place. And it takes a lot of courage to talk and to put, again, the stake in the ground, Patti, because now this is something that can be evaluated and measured, and there are going to be additional numbers placed against it. So it's a big thing. And when you think about any type of transition or change, Patti, it's all about me. It's all about me. And so you're really being out there and really looking at, connect, learn, be well. I mean, again, you're getting all these stories, and what's it about? It's about me, but it's global. So you get to see, oh my goodness, I'm not alone. Oh my goodness, this is so fabulous. Somebody in France or somebody in wherever, Germany, and somebody in the US. Oh, you're going through the same thing. That builds community. And, Patti, that's what so many people are missing, the community of my work family. Yeah.
And the plan we developed, just one final note, the Commit to Change plan, while initially focused on North America, a number of the initiatives that are in there, we believe, are scalable globally and in other markets. So we already have active work going on in our UK office, who already were doing a lot of great stuff, and they're evolving their charter as a result. I'm doing work with our Paris office in terms of what their plan is going to look like. So it is, we do have work to do, obviously, in North America, and that's the primary focus, but it is global in nature in terms of how we're looking at it as a group.
Yeah. And here's the key word, Patti, that you just said, and you said it more than once: evolve. Because you start and you have to reevaluate, and you have to be like, oh, this is good for now. And, oh, it can be better, because we're listening to our employees and we're going to take feedback, and then we're going to evolve it. Oh, and then we're going to evolve it again. I mean, it's got to be continuous evolution is what I'll say. And it might start in North America, and better than anybody, across cultures, it's going to be different. And there can be that template to help each of the demographics and geographies move forward. Fabulous.
Exactly. Yeah.
Love it. Okay. So the best leaders are curious. You just talked about it, and always learning. You just talked about that. And you talked a little bit about the tools and resources you've used to continually grow and develop. So what do you do for your people? Like, what do you do to develop? I mean, you're global talent, Patti. So it's not just your direct reports. I mean, you've got some responsibility across the Havas Group. So do tell.
Sure. So I think if you speak to people on my team or to people that have worked with me in the past, they'd say I keep a pretty high bar. I'm tough, but I'm fair. And they definitely figure out the kind of the magic behind that, because the growth that happens in the moment, sometimes they can't figure it out. But when they grow and they move into bigger roles and take on additional responsibility, all of a sudden they kind of like figure it all out. And I do think quite often, especially with, some women that are younger in their careers, sometimes they don't set the bar high enough for themselves. They may not see all of the capabilities that they have and what they can, strive to achieve or aspire to be. And that kind of leads into some of our global programming, which you had mentioned earlier, Fem Forward, which is our program, which is about advancing women in the organization. And we have very good numbers in terms of the number of women that are in CEO to managing director level type roles. I think we have 37% the last time I pulled the numbers on that across the group.
Wow.
But did see a problem with like kind of our senior manager, director level women not getting promoted or matriculating as fast as the men. And so Fem Forward was born really to help solve that problem. And it's a very unique program in that it's focused on, first of all, helping them understand themselves, which is where Lumina comes in. And Lumina is a great partner to us at Havas, and we leverage it in a lot of our programs. For Fem Forward, it really was quite enlightening for people to be able to better understand who they are as a leader and really embrace it.
Yeah.
Not be upset with themselves that something that was a strength they might feel may have in the past not felt it was a strength. So, we give them the opportunity to get to know themselves as a leader. We work on some very specific skill development. We introduce them to a lot of inspirational women leaders, both from Havas and friends and clients of Havas. What's most profound about that is they're shocked at people's career paths.
You mean that it's not a straight line as we were talking about earlier?
Somebody sitting up on that, panel saying, and then I just decided I was going to go move to this other country. And like, they're kind of like, oh my word, you could actually do that. So it really helps give them a lot of insight into, leadership as well as what's possible. It kind of breaks down some of those false paradigms that they have in their head. They leave the program with an advancement plan, which is something that they've designed. And it's really targeting kind of where they want to go and how they want to get there. And we've had great success with the women that participate in it. We've done it all around the world. And for the people who've completed the program, which is about a 6-month program, after they're out of it for a year, we have a 50% promotion rate and a 90% retention rate. So we're super pleased with that because they're growing and they're staying, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Another thing that's been fascinating about it is, just because you've touched on the global, is we went into it with the hypothesis that the experience in London would be different than the one with APAC versus Latin America, et cetera. And we basically, everybody said exactly the same thing in every session. The women were all like, the world is flat. That kind of demographic at that age, everybody was thinking and feeling the same things. There was no cultural difference whatsoever.
Wow.
And we found that to be stunning. And literally, it was really an amazing thing to kind of experience and hear the exact same thing come out of their mouths, no matter where they are in the world.
Yeah. And I think part of that program, because I participated with you and Havas, Patti, is the fact that so many of them, those women through that program, are given permission to be who they are at this point in time and recognize that there is light. Wow, there are opportunities. Wow, I never thought about that. And so to have that ability to be able to say, oh, this is who I am at this point in time. Oh, and I have options. I mean, the advancement plan alone gives them so much freedom to think, wow, I really can have some dreams here. And after you hear some of those women speaking, heck, I had dreams after it. I was like, woohoo, I know what else I can do. So, it's inspiring, but it also allows
a much higher honor of themselves.
Yes.
And once you have that, then it really opens the doors and the ability to kind of think about what else you want to do or tackle some issue or problem you had that you didn't have the courage to do before. So we're super pleased with that. But back to your question, more broadly, we have, a high potential leader program called Next Gen. We have a program called Lofts, which is our mobility program where people can go spend a month in another country at another agency with a peer-like coach. Obviously, that's on pause right now, but we'll look forward to resuming that. What used to be kind of like our employee engagement survey has really evolved and become a broad touch base of where are our employees, how are we doing, do they feel they belong? It not just kind of that standard, are they engaged in getting their work done? And we'll be evolving that more this year. And I'm really pleased that over the years, our leaders have now taken this as it's a really critical assessment and lever they use to look at the health of businesses. So that's another thing that we do. And, through the period of the pandemic, we've also developed a new information learning series called Chat Rooms, where we bring in Havas and external speakers on cutting edge topics and have a facilitated panel. And we've had extraordinary success. We just ran one last week. We had about 1,000 employees on it, and the rate of participation and engagement is significant. And to your point, like it's another way we've had to look at learning differently, since you can't bring people into a space together and have them kind of have an experience and become a community. We're doing it in different ways so that they can keep learning and growing, whether it be Life at Havas or chat rooms. Some of our traditional program we've kept moving along, where we already had groups started, where we've adjusted the content so that we can do more virtual learning to keep them moving along until such time that we can bring them back together in person.
Yeah, and I think that whole concept of virtual learning, I mean, everybody's doing it, and the fact that you were able to keep programs moving along. Okay, we can't be together in a room. However, we can continue the program, because if you cut that off, then all of a sudden it's that whole community, that whole collaboration, that whole innovation thing moves away, and that's not good for anyone. That's for sure. Nice.
No, I think what we've tried to do is have a variety of like everybody learns differently. Correct. And the online learning module might not be the thing for everybody. So we've tried to have, like, some of these are just, you're tapping into a conversation, and some might be more formal and have more structure of learning around it. So really depends on the individual, but I think we have a variety of things that we've tried to offer.
And again, what we talked about earlier about being everybody's unique. And so they're going to learn in a different way. And so to have options available to them to still feel like they're part of something bigger than them is really important for the employees. And the other thing about that, Patti, is, if you think about it from an employee perspective and you look around and, we're all where we are, and to know that your leadership team, whoever that might be, is really making an effort to make sure that you are learning, that you're participating, that you feel like you're part of something bigger, is a big deal, because it's lonely sometimes by yourself. Even if you have kids, even if you have animals, all of that, we miss being together. So the more that can be created, and it would give me as an employee great comfort to know that my leadership team was paying attention to the fact that it impacts me, and I need, from a wellness perspective, really a big deal.
I think the bar's never been higher for managers or leaders of people, because you have to have a much higher sensing ability because you're dealing with everything over a screen.
Yeah.
And so really kind of watching for signs with your employees that they might be struggling, making sure your communication is clear, that you don't get the benefit of kind of like the bantering around in a room anymore. For people who lead people, it's a time where you have to really be tuned in, because I think it's the stretch has been much longer than any of us anticipated, and people are doing their best, but they still need to be supported and know that their leaders are there for them.
Right. And if we go back and think about your, original concept of what and how, leaders now have to bring their whole selves to work, and they have to have an expectation that they're going to do that day in and day out. And that may not be some of our leaders' gifts. And yet from a stretch perspective, that would be some of the learning that would have to be done.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why we also have to keep helping our leaders.
Yes.
Because quite a lot they've had to carry over the last months. And, everyone's doing their best, but there's some who need more support and help. And there's others where, they might have it. So we're trying to keep that dialogue going as well so that they can support the employees.
Patti, just a few balls in the air, just a few balls in the air.
Exactly.
All righty. So let's get to my last question. And this is really back to the whole self, because, my belief is we all have to find joy that we bring into the work environment. And so outside of your work, what piece of art or culture, music or literature, whatever it is, fills you up, Patti, so you can do what you're doing for a living and paying attention to the employees of Havas?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, well, you and I have had this conversation before because you're a Jersey girl. So
right.
I would say that the place where I get both, I would say, comfort as well as the ability to think and be inspired is when I'm at the beach or near the water. And as you know, I recently moved and I'm close to the water. And there's just something so calming and that just allows my mind to kind of become free that I'm really kind of taking advantage of that. I've added to it sunrise because where I live, I can walk and get some pretty awesome sunrises over the water. And I think with all the challenges and complexity and stress that is kind of in our world right now, there's something about the sunrise that it's the start of yet another new day where you can put whatever happened yesterday behind you and start with a clean slate. And yet it's so powerful and so beautiful with all the colors. So the combination of kind of the water and the sunrise has really been kind of my go-to, especially when my dog gets up even earlier so that I can kind of combine a walk and sunrise and start my day off feeling really energized and motivated. And so that's something that's been a go-to for me of late.
I love it. And Patti, to witness a sunrise, it's so much bigger than we are. It's so much, it's going to come up every single day. And to be able to say, okay, today's a new day. What's my intention for today so that tomorrow it's going to be another new day. And it can really reframe what you think about yesterday because you think, all right, well, the sun's back again. So it just, that sounds amazing.
Yeah. And combine that with, I recently made I'm kind of towards the end of a 30-day yoga commitment.
Wow.
So doing the yoga, watching the sunrise with a little water, that whole attention piece, it kind of enables starting every day with joy and intention and happiness despite all the noise going on.
Yeah. And there's a lot of noise going on.
Yes,
that's for sure. Well, good for you. My goodness. So Patti, I don't even know what to say. Thank you for your brilliance and your insights and your candor and your vulnerability and your integrity. I mean, I could go on and on. And I could keep talking to you. We could just keep talking, but of course, everybody's going to be like, well, those two Jersey girls, just be quiet for a minute. And the answer is no. So we're really, really grateful for your wise words and your wisdom. And so I thank you very, very much for that, Patti. And so with that said, we're going to sign off. Any last words, Miss Patti?
Thank you, Karen. It's been really a pleasure and quite a joyful hour of my day. So thank you for that.
Thank you. All righty then. So thanks for listening. I'm Karen Colligan, and you've been listening to Patti Clarke, who is a Global Chief Talent Officer for the Havas Group. Till the next episode of the Let's Talk Leadership podcast, have a good one, and don't forget to keep it real. Music by Poddington Bear and editing by Mary Lee Williams. Thanks again. Have a good one. Bye now.